The cicadas had only just begun their afternoon hymn when I noticed the smell of bleach still clinging to the air. It wasn't mine, my knees had given up scrubbing years ago. And the mop leaned against the pantry wall like an old soldier unfit for duty. That morning, when I left the house on Willow Street for a short walk toward the post office, the sink had been full of plates, crumbs still decorating the counter from last night's peach cobbler, and a sticky ring of iced tea on the oak table. When I came back, everything gleamed. The kitchen tiles shone like someone had peeled back the years. And she was still there, humming. She wasn't family, not in the way Pinegrove's gossiping tongues demanded. But she had moved into my life so easily, as though she had been here all along. Her name was Mirabel Dorsey, a woman who claimed she had once been a nurse down in Baton Rouge before drifting north. In truth, she arrived in town 6 months ago, just as winter loosened its grip, and took a job folding laundry at Halpern's Motel on the highway. We met at church the following Sunday. I remember her eyes, sharp, wet green, like grass after a storm, and the way she took my hand with such certainty, as though she'd been waiting for the touch. I was 65 then, gray stitched into every strand of my hair, widowhood like a permanent scarf around my neck. Harold had been gone for 10 years, stroke, sudden, while checking the rain gutters. My daughter, Luann, lived 2 states over, and my son barely called unless it was Christmas. So when Mirabel leaned in after service, whispered that she didn't know where the grocery store was and could I show her, something in me cracked open. Loneliness can be a louder hunger than any stomach's. That afternoon in the kitchen, she wiped her hands on my apron as if it were hers already. "Your house just needed a little love," she said. Her voice carried that honeyed Louisiana drag, slow and deliberate, each word taking its time. She looked around at the polished counters, the reorganized spice rack, the dishes stacked neatly like soldiers. "Feels different, don't it?" It did, but I didn't admit that aloud. Instead, I asked, "Why would you do all this?" She turned then, the sunlight from the lace curtains slicing across her cheekbones. "Because when you care for a place, it becomes yours." I thought she meant metaphorically. I didn't realize she meant me. Summer in Pinegrove was unforgiving. The kind where the pavement buckled and children ran barefoot only to yelp and dash back. Inside, folks gathered at Dawson's Diner for iced coffee, gossip spilling faster than the cream. Everyone knew everyone else's business, or thought they did. That was why I hesitated to be seen too often with Mirabel. Yet hesitation has its own perfume, a mixture of shame and thrill. Every time she brushed past me in my narrow kitchen, our arms grazing, I felt it. She began leaving things behind. A red scarf tossed over my rocking chair, a chipped mug with a faded magnolia print. One evening, I noticed a hairbrush tucked beside the sink. "Don't you want to take this back to your room?" I asked. She just smiled. "Feels safer here." I didn't know how to confess it then. Not even in the diary I had stopped keeping after Harold's death. I liked it. I liked her presence filling the empty corners of my house. I liked the way she touched the framed photos of my children as if memorizing their faces. The way she whistled when feeding my canary. The way she scolded me when I tried to lift something too heavy. It had been years since anyone fussed over me. But affection and invasion can look eerily similar. The town noticed. At the Thursday farmers market, when I bought my usual jar of Miss Erla's pickled okra, she leaned close and whispered, "That new friend of yours sure is making herself comfortable, huh?" Her tone was sugar-coated but the blade glinted underneath. Pinegrove didn't welcome outsiders lightly, especially those with secrets trailing behind them like loose skirts. One night, over a plate of fried catfish she had cooked in my cast-iron skillet, Mirabel laughed so hard she tipped her glass. "You know," she said between chuckles, "folks at the motel think I already live here. Said I walk like I belong." Then, quieter, almost conspiratorial, she added, "Maybe I do." I wanted to protest, to remind her that this was my house, my kitchen. My name etched on the mailbox. But my throat tightened. Instead, I laughed along, though it sounded hollow in my own ears. I should have recognized the foreshadowing, the way she repeated certain phrases, as though trying them on for size. "This house needs me. Your family doesn't visit enough, but I will. We could start fresh, just us two." Each line slid into my life like a note under the door. And I collected them, tucked them away, too flattered, or too frightened, to refuse. On the 4th of July, Pinegrove held its annual parade down Main Street. Tractors dressed in bunting, children tossing candy from flatbeds, veterans saluting from folding chairs. I went alone, but halfway through the fireworks, Mirabel appeared beside me, her arm brushing mine. She whispered, "Imagine if they knew we were a pair." My heart slammed against my ribs. Not from desire, but from the sudden image of Luann's face, horrified, betrayed. That night, she kissed me. Not gently, not asking permission, but like someone claiming territory. I froze, half wanting to push her away, half terrified I never would. My canary chirped wildly in its cage, the sound shrill as alarm bells. And when she finally pulled back, breath ragged, she murmured, "You don't have to be alone anymore, Evelyn. I'll even take your name." The words sank into me like a stone into water, rippling outward. Take my name. Did she mean marriage? Did she mean identity? I didn't ask. Perhaps I was afraid of the answer. That was the beginning. Or maybe it was the end, though I didn't know it yet. In the weeks that followed, she began signing notes, little reminders she left on the fridge, using my last name. Gone to Dawson's, Dorsey Harper. As if she were already me. And the strange part? Each time I saw it, my chest tightened not with anger, but with something dangerously close to relief. Because maybe, just maybe, I wanted to disappear into her, too. The mornings after she first kissed me felt different. Though the same clock ticked on the wall and the same sun poured through the lace curtains, I began waking earlier, restless, as though some part of me feared what I might find, or not find, downstairs. And there she always was, Mirabel, barefoot on the cool linoleum, her robe cinched hastily, humming like she belonged in a memory I hadn't yet lived. She cooked in my kitchen now. That was new. I'd always been the one frying eggs or warming grits. But she stepped in with such assurance that my hands hovered uselessly. She knew how I liked my coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, before I said a word. She pressed the mug into my palms with the quiet confidence of a wife who'd been doing it for years. "Mirabel," I said one morning, watching her flip pancakes with practiced ease. "Folks might start to wonder." Her smile curved slow. "Let 'em." Pinegrove thrived on whispers. At Dawson's Diner, eyes followed us when we slid into the corner booth. Conversations stilled just long enough for a spoon to clink too loudly against a glass. When the waitress, a girl named Ruby with a sharp tongue, asked if our checks should be together or separate, Mirabel answered before I could. "Together," she said firmly, sliding her hand over mine. I felt the weight of the town's judgment pressing against the back of my neck. Afterward, in the parking lot, I snapped, "You can't just claim things like that." She tilted her head, green eyes glinting. "Claim? Evelyn, I'm not stealing. I'm giving." "Giving what?" "A life. A second chance. Don't you want it?" Her words lodged in me, like grit I couldn't spit out. One sticky August afternoon, Luann called from Kentucky. Her voice buzzed through the receiver, brisk as ever, rattling off her children's schedules and her husband's promotion before she asked, almost as an afterthought, "How are you, Mama? You sound different." I glanced toward the kitchen, where Mirabel was rearranging the cupboards again, humming that same tune she always hummed, some Cajun lullaby that both soothed and unsettled. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I lied. "Just busy." "Busy with what?" Luann asked, suspicion sharpening her tone. I wanted to tell her, to confess, to unburden, but what could I say? That another woman had moved into the cracks of my life and was slowly sealing them shut with her presence? That I both hated and needed it? So I only said, "You'll see when you visit." But Luann rarely visited. The heat bore down cruelly that summer, thick enough to curl the pages of the Bible on my nightstand. Mirabel began sleeping in my bed more often than not, though neither of us named it. Sometimes we lay side by side, not touching, as the fan chopped the air. Sometimes her hand found mine in the dark, and I didn't pull away. One night she whispered, "Do you ever think about starting over somewhere new? Just us?" I swallowed hard. "I'm too old for running." "Not running. Choosing." She turned on her side, eyes gleaming even in the shadows. "There's a difference." But Pinegrove did not miss a thing. At the farmer's market, Miss Erla raised an eyebrow as she handed me a jar of pickled okra. "Heard you've got a house guest." Her tone slid between casual and cruel. "Just helping out a friend," I said quickly. Erla smirked. "That what they call it these days?" The words stung, not because they weren't true, but because they were too close to something I hadn't yet admitted to myself. The first real crack came when Mirabel used my last name at the pharmacy. She picked up my prescription for blood pressure and signed the slip, Mirabel Harper. The clerk, old Mr. Gaines, looked confused but said nothing. When he mentioned it later, chuckling, "Didn't know you had kin back from Louisiana." I felt heat flood my face. That evening I confronted her. "You can't just write my name like that. It's mine." She leaned back in the rocker on my porch, unbothered. "Don't you see, Evelyn? I'm not taking it. I'm keeping it safe. You've been alone so long, your name's been gathering dust. I'm polishing it up." I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand she leave. But the thought of the house empty again, no humming, no laughter, no second cup of coffee waiting, was unbearable. September brought cooler evenings and the county fair. Pinegrove's pride, pie contests, Ferris wheel lights, fiddlers playing into the night. Against my better judgment, I let Mirabel come with me. She clutched my arm as we wandered past the booths, pointing out jars of jam, laughing at the rigged ring toss. For a moment, I felt almost happy, almost free. Then we passed the photo booth. Without asking, she pulled me inside. The flash popped 4 times, each capturing us closer, until the final picture showed her lips brushing my cheek. When the strip slid out, warm and smelling of chemicals, I snatched it. "Mirabel," I started, but she pressed her finger to my lips. "Keep it," she said. "Proof we're real." That night, alone in bed, I studied the photos until my eyes burned. Proof we're real. The words rang like a bell I could not unhear. It was then I began to wonder, had I invited her in, or had she chosen me? Was this love, or was I being rewritten, piece by piece, into someone else's story? And if I was, why did it feel like relief? Autumn arrived in Pinegrove like a sigh, leaves curling into rust and gold. The air crisp enough to sting the lungs, mornings fogging the windows in my kitchen. By then, Mirabel's presence had become as fixed as the creak in the stairs or the faint smell of mothballs in the hall closet. She no longer knocked when she came and went. She no longer asked before rearranging shelves or stacking laundry. She simply was. One Sunday, as church bells tolled, I stood before the mirror fastening the same pearl brooch Harold once gave me. Mirabel leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You don't have to go," she said. "We can worship here in our own way." I hesitated, the brooch heavy in my palm. Part of me wanted to stay, to sink into the cocoon she spun so effortlessly. But Pinegrove expected my face in that pew. Absence would feed the fire. "People will notice," I murmured. Her smile was thin. "They already notice." At service, I felt the stares like nettles on my skin. Mrs. Latham refused to share a hymnal. Children whispered behind cupped hands. Pastor Willis avoided meeting my eyes. When the final hymn ended, I slipped out quickly, heart hammering. But Mirabel was waiting outside beneath the oak, a cigarette between her lips. "They'll never accept me," she said flatly, exhaling smoke. "Not unless you do first." 1 week later, a letter arrived. My son, Marshall, scrawled from Ohio. "Ma, folks been calling me. Saying you've got some woman living there. Is it true? Please tell me it ain't. People are laughing. It don't sit right." His words cut deeper than he knew. I folded the letter twice, slid it into the drawer where old birthday cards and tax receipts lay. When Mirabel asked what the post had brought, I lied. "Just bills." But guilt rattled inside me like coins in a jar. October meant the harvest fair, a tradition as old as Pinegrove itself. Against reason, I let Mirabel tag along. She wore a crimson scarf that drew every eye. We wandered past stalls of candied apples and quilts. The smell of kettle corn thick in the air. At the pie contest, Miss Erla's voice sliced sharp. "Didn't know wives came in pairs these days." Laughter bubbled around us. My cheeks burned. I wanted to protest, to tell them they were wrong. That nothing had been decided. But Mirabel slipped her arm through mine, holding me close. Her eyes glittered with defiance. "They'll choke on their tongues soon enough," she whispered. That night, as we shared a slice of pumpkin pie at my kitchen table, she slid something across to me, the photo booth strip from the county fair, now framed. "For the mantle," she said. I stared at it, the image of her lips near my cheek like a brand. "Mirabel, I can't." "Yes, you can." She pushed it closer. "It's who we are." The pressure built. Phone calls from Marshall grew shorter, colder. Luann sent a postcard that read only, "Are you all right?" At the grocery store, conversations hushed when I walked down the aisle. I felt myself splitting, half clinging to the woman who filled my empty house, half longing to tear free before I drowned in her shadow. One evening, I found Mirabel in my bedroom, wearing Harold's old flannel shirt. My breath caught. "That's not yours," I snapped. She turned, calm as still water. "It is now." Something inside me cracked, the soundless fracture of bone under skin. Halloween night, children knocked at the door in plastic masks. Mirabel handed out candy, cooing at each costume, while I hovered in the background. When the bowl emptied, she closed the door and turned to me. "You see how easy it is. We can make a family of our own." Her words echoed in the hollow chambers of my chest. Family. The one I already had was slipping further away, ashamed of me. And yet here she was, offering another kind of belonging, strange, suffocating, but intoxicating all the same. That night I dreamed Harold stood at the foot of my bed, rain dripping from his coat, his mouth working soundlessly. When I woke, Mirabel's arm was draped over me, heavy, possessive. I wanted to scream. I wanted to weep. Instead, I lay still, listening to her steady breathing, wondering whose name would be mine by winter's end.